Hi there, I'm Andrew Frazier, founder of Doggy Zone, and I'm here with Milton today, one of our dog training experts. He's been with us for many years now.
Yeah,
One of the few that have remained with us through the battles of growing as a company, and certainly glad to have you here. So, what we're here to talk about today is socialization. We are coming into a time of the year where a lot of people are getting puppies, and we want to make sure that everybody's set up for success. So let's talk a little bit about what is socialization. Can you boil down in just like a couple of words or phrases here, like what is socialization?
yeah, absolutely. Socialization is getting our puppies around different environments, right, and exposing them to sounds, objects, as well as people and dogs.
That's great. Very well said. And one of the misconceptions that we hear frequently, in fact, since we have our daycare business here, a lot of people come in saying that they want to get their dog better socialized. Um, but socializing is actually a bit different than socialization. So can you maybe provide some clarity around what is the difference between socializing with your dog versus socialization for your dog?
Right. And so socializing is exactly that, getting our dogs around different family members, different people, and dogs. And so think stopping and talking to your neighbor who might have another dog is also a scenario where you're going to be socializing with your puppy. And so going back to the earlier point where socialization, the difference is now getting them around different sounds, objects, household appliances tend to be one of the things that we really want to get them used to in the early stages of training. But that's exactly the difference between the two.
Yeah, so it sounds to me like socializing is like the act of engaging. It's that social interaction that's taking place between the dog and a person, and the dog and another dog, or the dog and a cat, or
Right.
whatever the case or object. But the socialization is really more of a time period in the pet's life where we are helping them to become familiar and get used to other people, other dogs, animals, so on and so forth. So I think that's great. Now, one of the things that we find is that people want to socialize their dog at a point kind of that's past the socialization window that puppies go through. Can you talk a little bit about like what are some of the problems that people run into when they have a dog that's not very well socialized? Like what happens?
Right. And so typically what happens is as the dogs get older, we then start to run into some scenarios where they start to get stressed out. They can't really handle it. And so think if you were to take your dog or puppy to really a parade of some sort, and they're starting to get stressed and overwhelmed, there was a step before them that maybe we should have taken in getting them used to that environment where we could control the environment and expose them the proper way so that they have the best experience they could have, a positive one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you mentioned the parade. It's funny, you see some people's dogs are in environments like that and they just don't seem bothered by anything. And one of the comparisons that I like to make is around working dogs, police dogs, search and rescue dogs, dogs that are actually doing work in the real world tend to be some of the best socialized dogs. And that is the benefit is that they can go anywhere with these dogs and they're not fazed by the environment, the people, the dogs, or anything that's going on because of how well socialized they've been. And that comes from a really proactive place of thinking ahead of what type of life do you want to live with your dog? Like, what are the things and the places that you want to go do and see, and make sure that you're putting in the time to help your dog be successful so that when you go there, they're really, really comfortable. So tell me a little bit about like the age for socialization, because I believe that there's a pretty finite period of time that's, what we here at Doggy Zone think is that most impactful time period, but I know that it does go on for longer than that. So talk a little bit about that for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So typically it's going to be from 7 weeks to about 16 weeks. That's where we like to say, puppies are almost like a sponge. They're absorbing everything around them, and that's where you, as a puppy owner, can be the most impactful. Whereas to after about that time, it's not that socialization has stopped, It does keep going, but those earlier couple of, weeks is going to be very important for their upbringing.
Yeah, we actually just had a team member here get a puppy in the past week, and she was sharing with me that the dog has been basically with the litter, up until she got the dog. Dog's about, I think, 10 or 12 weeks of age. And what I shared with her is because of the fact that this dog was with the litter for so long, it's likely that this dog is going to be a much more dog oriented dog versus if she were to have had that puppy come to her at 7 weeks of age and leave the litter at 7 weeks, it'd be a much more human centric type of dog. So, there's things like that do have a pretty big impact on how that dog is going to interface with the world as they go on. Tell me a little bit about how to socialize a dog. I mean, there's a million different things to socialize pets. In fact, we have a list here that if you ask us for it, we can probably share it with you,
Yeah.
of all of the different things to socialize dogs with, from cars and vacuums and skateboards and people and dogs and cats and cows and everything. There's tons of stuff on the list.
Right.
But talk to us about how is it that we actually go about socializing our dog so that we don't end up creating more problems, because I know a lot of the times people have great intentions and end up creating more problems because they moved too quickly and you put the dog into a more challenging situation than they were ready for. So walk us through that.
Yeah, so the way you'd want to socialize it first, you have things that happen by default, whereas we want things to happen by design. And so the best way to do that is going to be hiring a professional, right? Getting a trainer to get you through those first couple of months in the proper way. So really what it comes down to is controlling, right? Controlling the environment where if we were going to socialize our puppy and we wanted them to interact with different people and dogs, you can bring them to a facility, right? We offer daycare where we have plenty of puppies who come. I'm actually thinking about one right now from one of our previous guests who did training with us, and she wanted to get started early. So she's bringing her puppy in where he's been allowed to interact with, other dogs, and the attendees in the room are able to monitor and make sure that every single interaction he's having is controlled and it's a good one. Whereas if we can't control those things and we just let the puppies go into like a dog park or something where on that particular day we don't know if it might be the best fit for a puppy, an experience that we might not want to happen can occur.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you do need to take it slow, and you have some dogs that seem to come out of the womb just like rearing to go, very social, and genetically, some dogs are going to just be more stable than others, and also breed characteristics, I think, certainly play a role in that. But when you get a dog that is a bit more soft and maybe doesn't have the level of confidence that you might see in a rambunctious golden retriever or lab, then you really do need to take it slow and make sure that that is done in stages as to not overwhelm the dog to the point where they're actually having a bad experience. I mean, I've even seen people, trying to socialize their dogs create problems with their dog because they aren't going about it in the right way. And so if you're not super comfortable on how to work your dog through a fear of something, then you absolutely should be working with a trainer so that you learn how to work your dogs through fears, because that's really, as a dog owner, as a good, responsible dog owner, you should be a coach to help coach your dog on their emotions of fear and be able to work them through that. And if you can't, then you definitely want to get help. And it can be small things like, your dog's afraid of a vacuum cleaner or some type of household appliance. We can show you how to work through that. And in fact, in some of our puppy classes, we'll do that. We'll get a vacuum cleaner out, or we'll get some different objects and surfaces out that we want to help dogs work through. So I think that you've done a great job of kind of expressing the whole premise of socialization, and it's a huge responsibility that we have as dog owners. And as I think you sit here today and listen to this, you'll realize, some of you with older dogs, that maybe you missed out on socializing your dog the way that maybe you now know that they should have been. And if that's the case, I don't want to say that it's too late, because I find that a dog that's got really good obedience training can actually end up overcoming a lot of the fears that they may be experiencing because they weren't well socialized. So one way or the other, we can certainly, help people out on this. And I know that you do that on a daily basis. So we certainly appreciate that. Milton, is there anything else that you want to add before we wrap up here?
No, I think that's super great. Like you mentioned here earlier, our puppy classes do a great job at teaching that. And so if you do happen to want to come in and get started with that, we can certainly help. We're by phone or by website. You can get to us, and we'll certainly help.
Awesome. Well, Milton, thanks for joining me today, and we hope that you guys had a great experience learning about socialization. And if you would give us a like and share this with anybody that you think could benefit from hearing our content, we would certainly love that. We hope you have a better than great day. Talk to you soon.